on June 24, 2025, the Nigerian Senate made a significant decision to extend the implementation of the capital component of the 2024 budget until December 31st, 2025. This is the second time the Senate is extending this capital implementation phase of the 2024 budget. The earlier extension followed a request from President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who in December 2024 wrote to the National Assembly seeking approval to shift the capital expenditure implementation deadline from 31st of December 2024 to 30th of June 2025. Deputy Senate President Barau Jibrin announced the extension of the appropriation bill after it was read for the first, second, and third times on the same day, and supported by most of the senators. Muktar Mohammed, CEO, Finance with Muktar, joins me now to provide more perspective. Good morning, Mr. Muktar.
Good morning, Juliana. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you, and I trust you are too. So this is the first time an appropriation bill is being extended twice in one cycle. What justification is being provided for this second extension?
I don't think there's any justification. I think what we're seeing is a government that seems not planning what they ought to do when they want to do it. Because again, it has never happened in the history of this country where we have two budgets running almost at the same time, and you're looking at capital project, and you said just budget of capital project. And what we've seen thus far is that a lot of capital project of 2025 budget are not being implemented because 2024 is still running. And so a lot of contractors, a lot of government parastatals have not been able to pay their contractors for the 2025 work. So it's, yeah, like I said, it has never happened before, but we are always good at being the first to implement something. But I don't, it shows lack of seriousness, and it's not good for our economy.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. But of course, members of the House and the President himself, the first extension, his justification was that it's to allow for full execution of capital projects that have suffered from delayed funding and implementation. And right now we have some senators justifying it, saying that it's critical given the importance of many near completed projects, so they don't want it to be abandoned. That's why they're doing this. What do you make of that explanation or that reason?
No, they are telling all of this, but they are not telling us the cost of it, whether the cost has increased, because at the time this budget was run, what was the exchange rate, especially if it's a budget that has to do with a lot of expenditure? Is it the same cost at the moment when you are extending it, or you are extending it at a different cost? That is one. Two, again, we are not even knowing what this project are about. Where are these projects? What are these capital projects? I think the Senate would have done us more justice to Nigeria by naming this project, and let's see the level of compliance, the level of completion, because it's just vogue for you to just say, oh, we are doing capital project, but nobody seems to tell us the level of completion. So now it's going to run for another 6 months. How are we sure that after 6 months they won't come back again? Remember, they did it in January. And for me, the challenge I have with the current budgetary process is we are forcing ourselves to keep a budgetary year of 1 year starting in January, when we know that we don't have the structure and the capability of doing that. And this was all as a result of what former President Muhammadu Buhari started. So, and that does not give the Senate a good time, or the House of Reps, to look at this budget. And we'll continue to see budget being extended. If you want to follow the law, it was agreed that an appropriation bill that was, maybe a 2024 budget can only be allowed to run for 6 months. Now we are seeing where a 2024 budget and a 2025 budget are going to run together for the next 1 year. I think it shows a lack of character, lack of seriousness, lack of we really know what project really matters to us. Because again, some of these projects you might see may overlap into 2025 appropriation bill.
I mean, again, you have pointed out some of the implications, right? And, the signaling, the messaging this is sending twice, an extension in one cycle. Give us a picture of the implication that this will have on perhaps the private sector and, some of these capital projects as well, given the already, highlighted fiscal deficits.
can tell you for the private sector, especially those contractors, those in the service sector, they're already suffering from it. Some of them borrowed loan from the bank, and you know what it means, the high interest rate they are paying on this loan. So their profit has already been eroded. Some of them will have to disengage some of their staffs. And what this will create is another increase in the number of Nigerians that are unemployed. And again, that for business, that is not good. So I brought you two critical issues that are affecting the private sector, and it does not give for long-term planning. Also, to know most private sectors globally drive by budgetary allocation. That what are the benchmark? What are we at this time when you are looking at those capital projects? The benchmark is different from what we are having definitely now. So it calls for a lot of concern. Like the senator from Bayelsa said, it's making a lot of Nigerians to begin to lose confidence in this current administration in terms of delivering on their deliverables.
And I mean, aside Nigerians, what about investors? What's happening to them and, their confidence in, public financial management system here in Nigeria?
Of course, you and I know how investors feel now, especially most of these projects. Some of them are investors act as service provider. Some of them have their equipment on ground, and that equipment have been there for months and not doing anything. So definitely that does not help any investor to want to invest in your economy when he knows that there could be a policy somersault. Investors or businesses are driven by 1 year cycle, not in between. You rather, what you do is, if a project is so important that you feel that there must be a spillover, then you have to put it into the 2025 budget. That should have just been the right thing, so that they will not be stopping. But the situation whereby you want this project are stopped, and then where funding will have to be released, and we're already running a budget deficit. So there's a lot of things that they are not telling us. It's costing us a lot now to implement 2024 budget capital project. We're not even talking about 2025 budget. And remember that in this 2024 budget also, what was included there was allowances that should be paid to civil servants. So definitely also it's affecting the morale of the civil service, because some of these allowances will not be paid because they say that the budget is still on the government and not made provision for it. But you see, it's only in Nigeria. It's a shame that when you look at this, but we are only concentrating on capital project. We are only seeing a slowdown in capital project. But everything that has to do with recurrent expenditure has been concluded. There was no issue about extending recurrent expenditure. But the capital project that is supposed to galvanize the economy and also provide job for the ordinary Nigerians are those projects that are still, because government is saying, we don't have the fund and we need to finish this project, we need to borrow, and then we need to extend the cycle.
I mean, definitely a lot of transparency issues there. We'll get into that after the break, especially, as regards what this means going forward for, infrastructure deficit in Nigeria. Stay with us. After this break, we'll get into it with Muktar Mohammed. All right, the Senate extends the 2024 budget implementation again, this time to December 2025. This year is the second extension within a cycle. We have Muktar Mohammed providing us insight into what's happening. And you have, of course, highlighted, thank you for staying with us, you've, of course, highlighted, what this is doing to confidence in the government and its, public financial management system, the fact that, they kept recurring to a budget, but it's just that capital project part that is, being extended. Also, do you have any idea, is there any transparency as regards the specific infrastructure projects that are being delayed that are necessitating the budget extension? And for contractors, and other private sector players who may want to go into any form of contract with the government, what message is this sending to them, and what precedents does this set going forward?
Okay, thank you again. I think the challenge is that, like I said, but the capital project are not being mentioned by the National Assembly. We don't know what this capital project are. If you want to talk about such project, you will now be talking about the Lagos Coastal Road project. Information we get that since the commissioning of that project, there's not been any work ongoing there any longer. So that could be one project that has been affected by this project extension, knowing fully whether it started from 2024, and we don't know whether provision was made for it in 2025. Those are some of the projects that we are aware of. And you also realize that there are some other major projects that are going on, maybe the Kaduna, Kano, and Duash Carriage, where there's still a lot of work to be done there. There could also be a project that is being affected by this current budget issue. So, and like I said, most of these projects are projects that have meaningful impact on the life of the ordinary Nigeria, because of those projects create jobs for the unskilled Nigerian, and also create a market for the informal sector, especially smaller business who are able to supply product to some of these contractors or deliver one or two services to them. So definitely the snowball effect is not just impactful only on the bigger companies, but also have a way of affecting the smaller businesses. In terms of transparency, as I've just said, there's no transparency in that in what they are telling us at this moment, because we don't know the budget, nobody's telling us the cost, because I strongly believe the cost will not be the same like what it was in 2024. So what is this cost, and what is the deficit of 2024 budget with the kind of costs that we'll see by virtue of this extension of this of some of these capital projects in 2024. And then in terms of contractors, definitely is creating room for corruption, because when you know that you might do a project and government will not pay you on time, what you begin to see, you see projects that are over-bloated to meet up with government not paying them on time, and this is what cause violation. And you see a project will start, and the minister will say the contractor must go back to site, and the contractor is saying, look, I have not been mobilized to go back to site because the cost of those projects has changed. So those are part of the issues when they have to deal with transparency, and that's why I said when you abandon a project, the cost of coming back to complete it is always higher.
And I'm just trying to imagine, if you can give us the picture, how this all ripples down to affect the economic growth that we're pursuing. We know that is top of the agenda for this administration, driving economic growth, improving the economy. But how do things like this trickle down to affect that ambition?
You have to, like I've said, in terms of the informal sector that are delivering services to some of these projects, what it means is that the ordinary man that is delivering one or two services, either skill and unskilled service, or the formal sector that are delivering skilled services, they will not be available to do that, and that also will impact their earnings. Smaller business that are delivering one services or the others to those sectors will not be able to deliver, and that will affect their earnings. So it will drive a lot of Nigerians, most of them that are servicing themselves, to the poverty level. So definitely that is how it trickles down to the ordinary Nigeria on the street, because what it means is that more or less that you don't have job, because once these projects are ongoing, they create job for you, and not only that, they create market also for the SMEs and the smaller businesses. So once such business are stopped, definitely those that's how it trickles down to the ordinary Nigeria. And then again, in terms of confidence, it doesn't give a lot of Nigerian confidence to believe in the budgetary processes, because we already have a challenge in terms of budget performance. Budget performance has always been low, and now we are having a second one still running, and we don't even know the performance of it. So these are challenges that the government need to address as soon as possible.
The delayed funding release, you can imagine how that will impact the ordinary man. But what measures to stop this from happening again? Because, it has happened before, but now it's happening twice in a cycle. So what measures has and can the federal government put in place to ensure that this extended deadline, right now December 2025, does not result in a further delay or even abandon projects that they were avoiding?
One is present it on time. The budget must be presented on time for the National Assembly to do due diligence. And I've said it over and over. It's only in Nigeria that provision are made for budgets. I mean, let's say you want to construct a road, it's the government that will in turn say how much they want to spend on this road, how many kilometers, but they don't even involve the contractors, they don't even involve them in the planning. So I think I will appreciate a situation whereby when a budget is signed, we know that the contractor can hit the ground running because provision have been made for this work to continue. Secondly, we have to sit down as a nation and also begin to look at our financial year end. Can we really achieve January to December? Because it's not sacred ground that you must be January to, just like some companies will do their budget, their year end in such a way that it does not happen in December, it happen in March, some make it happen in June. So it depends. So we should also look at critically what is going to be Nigerian year end. If we are not, we can't be saying we want to have a year end of January to December, and we end up having is no more a year end. So we are now having a budget of January 2024 to be concluded in December 2025. So we need to sit down critically and look at our year end. And if we want to look at our year end, we want to achieve January to December, then we must sure that the budget must be presented as soon as in June or July, so that it can give room for proper scrutiny of the budget from the National Assembly. Even if a lot of people feel the National Assembly has become rubber stamp, these are part of the strategy that make the National Assembly rubber stamp. Because when you present the budget in August, pressure is on the National Assembly to approve the budget because we want to run a January to December year end. Those are things we really need to look into.
Then hopefully we see that legislative oversight. Finally, do you see this recurring trend of budget extension? How does it set a precedent for, that perhaps undermines the annual budget cycle? And if so, what are the long-term consequences of things like this?
The long term, let me start with the long term consequence, and we are feeling it already. The cost of those projects has gone up. Nobody is telling us what the exchange rate was then when this project were. I remember 2024, the government was doing an exchange rate about 750. Today is 2025, so exchange rate is the government official fare is about 1,500. So definitely, what it means that the budget has gone up by 100% in terms of funding, and that also will affect our reserve in terms of what we'll be able to have. That is one, and so that's the long term implication of this, and it's can it be averted? Is there any way out of it? I think, like I said, it calls for proper planning, but again, we need to also look at it critically and look at projects should be approved with a lot of cash backing, because when you go to the ministries or to the parastatals, the challenge they have is that, look, this budget has been approved, but there's no cash backing. Those are the long-term effects. And like I said, other effect is that they don't create confidence in your economy. They also do not help companies to grow, result in unemployment, because again, a company might be hiring because of a particular project that they think will soon be online for them to start, and this project is not seeing the light of this. So what they will do is that they will just decide to fire or fire some of these workers that were supposed to be employed to carry out this project. And the long-term effect that you are creating a market of unemployed youths, and you are adding to that market almost annually.
Indeed, hopefully we don't see another extension, and hopefully somehow they're able to put shocks in place to attend to the consequences of things like this. Thank you very much for providing perspective, Muktar Mohammed, CEO of Finance with Muktar. Thank you.